Have you ever had a genuinely good day, like you crushed a deadline, the sun was out, and then you immediately ruined it by checking your credit card statement? You're just standing there in the kitchen, feeling great, and then bam, that wave of dread hits your stomach because you spent $22 on lunch. For me, that pit in my stomach used to be my baseline. It felt like my default setting was anxious, and I thought that's just what being a responsible adult felt like. I'm Aiden. Welcome to Aiden Money Psychology. Today we're talking about the difference between money anxiety and money avoidance, and why I spent years confusing the two, basically just spinning my wheels and feeling terrible about myself. To understand how I got here, you have to meet my friend Sam. Sam is the reason this channel even exists. Sam and I worked together at a marketing firm in Chicago a few years back. We were both in our mid-20s, both making the same okay but not great salary, about $48,000 a year, which in Chicago means you can have a life, but you're also very aware of how much a life costs. You know the vibe, you're calculating if you can afford the extra guac, but you usually get it anyway and just feel weird about it later. Sam was the complete opposite of me. We'd get paid on the 15th and the 30th, payday would hit, and I'd spend the rest of the day with my stomach in knots. I'd log into my banking app 6 times before lunch, just staring at the numbers, mentally subtracting rent, utilities, that student loan payment. I was hyper-vigilant. I was the definition of money anxiety. Every dollar had a job, and if a dollar was unemployed for even a second, I'd panic. Sam was the opposite. Payday would come, and Sam would immediately pay the bare minimum on his credit card. The minimum, just to keep the lights on, and then he'd blow the rest on a great weekend. New sneakers, dinner in the West Loop, drinks for everyone at the bar. He was living, he was free. I remember one time, I was spiraling because my car needed new tires, an unexpected $700 expense. I was doing the math in my head at my desk, probably looking green around the gills. Sam walked by, saw my face, and laughed. He said, "Dude, you gotta chill. Money comes, money goes. You can't take it with you." And I remember thinking, how? How do you just not care? How do you sleep at night? I was so convinced I had the right approach. I was the responsible one. I was the one paying attention. I pitied him, honestly. Then, about 6 months later, something happened that completely flipped my perspective. Sam came over to my apartment with a 6-pack of beer and sat on my couch. He didn't look like the carefree guy from work. He looked tired. He told me he had finally sat down to look at his credit card debt, the total, the whole number. For the first time in 2 years, he added it all up. And it was $12,000. 12 grand, mostly on high-interest cards. He said, "I thought if I just didn't look at it, it would somehow sort itself out. I thought the avoidance was freedom." But it's not freedom. It's just a really long leash, and now I've hit the end of it and the collar is choking me. And I'm sitting there, listening to him, and I felt this weird mix of sadness for him, and envy. Because for a second I thought, at least he gotta have the sneakers. At least he got the dinners. What did I get? I got years of 3 a.m. math. I got the pit in my stomach. I got the dread. I was so focused on not being him that I never stopped to realize I wasn't actually okay either. I was just anxious, and anxiety, it turns out, is just as paralyzing as avoidance. It just wears a different mask. My mask was responsibility. His mask was living my best life. But underneath, we were both just scared. We were both just reacting to money like it was a monster under the bed. He just pretended the monster wasn't there. I just laid in bed staring at it all night. And that's actually the question I want to leave you with right in the middle of this. Because I bet you're listening to this and you're leaning toward one side or the other. So here's my question for you. Are you the person lying awake at 3 a.m. doing the math? Or are you the person who swipes the card and hopes for the best? Or maybe, just maybe, are you a little bit of both? I want to know. Seriously, drop it in the comments below. Tell me if you're team anxiety, team avoidance, or team exhausted in the middle like I was. And if this conversation is hitting home, if you're tired of feeling this way around money, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to build a different kind of conversation here, one that's a little less shame and a little more understanding. All right, back to the story. After that night with Sam, I started to get curious. Not about budgeting hacks or investment strategies, but about the feeling itself. Why did a simple act, spending money on lunch, have the power to ruin my entire day? Why did seeing my bank account balance feel like a verdict on my worth as a human being. I started reading, not finance books, but psychology books. I came across this concept called financial flashpoints. It's the idea that our core money behaviors are often formed by specific, intense moments in our past, usually from childhood. And that's when I remembered the Kmart trip. I was maybe 7 or 8 years old. My mom was at the checkout. We were buying school supplies, I think. Crayons, folders, a new backpack. She swiped her card, and it got declined. I remember the beep. The cashier, this bored-looking teenager, just said, "It says insufficient funds." My mom's face went red. She didn't say anything. She just pulled out a different card, swiped it, and it went through. She grabbed the bag, and we walked to the car in total silence. When we got in the car, she just sat there for a minute, gripping the steering wheel, staring out the windshield. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just looked, humiliated. And 7-year-old me, sitting in the back seat, didn't learn a lesson about budgeting. I learned that money equals safety, and the lack of it equals shame. I learned that you have to watch it, guard it, because if you don't, you'll end up red-faced in a checkout line. You'll be humiliated. It wasn't about the money. It was about the feeling. And I had been trying to avoid that feeling for 20 years by being a control freak about my bank account. I wasn't being responsible. I was being a 7-year-old kid, trying to protect my mom from feeling shame. Once I realized that, the practices I needed weren't about spreadsheets. They were about rewriting that old story. And I want to be clear, I didn't do this overnight, and I didn't do it alone. But here are a few things I tried that actually moved the needle. First, I started what I called a guilt-free line item. I was so obsessed with tracking every penny that I had made spending feel morally wrong. So I created a category in my budget called fun money, and I gave it permission to exist. No questions asked. If I wanted a $12.99 cocktail, I didn't have to justify it. It was in the plan. It sounds stupidly simple, but for me, it was radical. It separated my spending from my self-worth. Second, I did a bill-paying ritual. Instead of paying my credit card bill in a panic, refreshing the page 5 times to make sure it posted, I changed the vibe. I'd make a cup of tea, put on some music, and just do it. I'd say to myself, this is me taking care of my life. It sounds cheesy, but it changed the physical sensation of paying bills from dread to a small moment of competence. And third, I talked to Sam about it. We started doing money dates together. Once a month, we'd meet at a coffee shop, grab a latte, and just open our laptops next to each other. We didn't share passwords or judge each other's purchases. We just sat in the discomfort together. Having someone next to you who isn't panicking, or who is panicking but is willing to sit with you anyway, is incredibly powerful. It took the shame out of the silence. So where am I now? I'm not cured. I still get a little twinge of anxiety when I see a big expense come through. I'm never going to be the person who feels nothing when money leaves my account. But the difference is, I don't believe the feeling anymore. I used to think the anxiety was a warning bell, a sign that I was in danger. Now I recognize it as an old habit. It's a ghost. It's the echo of my 7-year-old self in the back of that Kmart car. I can feel it, acknowledge it, and say, oh, there you are, I see you. But we're okay right now. We have what we need. And Sam? Sam is doing better too. He's not completely avoidant anymore. He still has to fight the urge to ignore his statements, but now he knows that's what it is. An urge, not a truth. We check in with each other. He's the one who reminds me to actually spend my fun money, and I'm the one who reminds him to just take a peek at his balance. We balance each other out. I think a lot of us get stuck because we think the goal is to feel nothing about money. We think financial peace means looking at our portfolio with the cold, dead eyes of a robot. But that's not true. The goal isn't to stop feeling. The goal is to stop letting the feeling drive. You can feel the fear and check the balance anyway. You can feel the urge to ignore it and open the app anyway. You can feel the shame of a past mistake and still make a plan for tomorrow. Whether you're an avoider or an anxious person, or like me, someone who's been both. The way out isn't through a better budget. It's through understanding the story you've been telling yourself. And then, maybe, gently starting to tell a new one. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. If this video meant something to you, or if you saw a little bit of yourself in it, please hit that like button. It really does help more people find these conversations. And If you want to dig deeper into the psychology of your money habits, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves.